But yeah, welcome. This is, I think, episode 12, I think, of the podcast. And if you guys aren't familiar with it, basically what we do, I've just been talking to like different people I've met throughout the years doing this whole thing, and just especially people that have been doing it a long time, and just kind of going back through like the whole process, how everyone got started, everyone started playing games, and just kind of walking through the years. It's been kind of fun. Yeah, Anthony is much more familiar with you guys than I am, because he was watching a lot more Machinima Respawn before I even started doing YouTube and like even learned about this whole world, because I didn't really get into it until like late 2011. And by then you guys were rolling by then. So I'm letting Anthony kind of take the lead on this one.
Yeah, that's when it's really started cracking, I would say.
Yeah.
That was the best of times and the worst of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
1 year.
We're going to dig into it. I've dug down memory lane a little bit. I don't know. I think it's a fair introduction to say that, you know, what Tyler said is we're talking to a lot of people that we've met along the way doing YouTube, but I'd say it's a fair assumption that you three are probably an inspiration for a fair majority of the people that are out there doing it to some degree. If it's not directly, then somehow indirectly, because of, I mean, Adam, you were the first to 1 million in gaming ever.
When did that take place? I don't even know that. I know that happened.
2014, maybe?
No, it had to be before that. I hit 1 million. I hit 1 million in 2014. That had to be like 2011 or something. 2012 or 2011.
It would have been a 2011 with the Minecraft stuff, I think.
Maybe. I mean, that sounds about right. I mean, Minecraft, yeah.
I had interviewed M Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold, I think, the same like early.
Was that on my Camp Hutch, or was that just like a? Yeah,
it was shortly after Modern Warfare 2 got launched, I think, and that was like the first sign that I think pop stars and sort of like different industries were getting interested in gaming. Mm-hmm. And then Deadmau5 was like a kind of a step up from that.
Yeah, that was a fun time.
And we were we were all into all this stuff. Yeah. But Machinima saw dollar sign.
That's all Machinima saw.
As they did. Yeah.
They're not seeing many of those anymore.
No, they're not.
Yeah. So of the three of you, Sark, were you the first one at Machinima after your G4 days?
Well, see, this is where it all gets hazy.
Okay.
Because it depends on how you define first and at Machinima. Because
it's yes.
I was hired on
like within the
Machinima.
Company.
Yeah. I was the first of us three.
Okay.
I was nowhere near the first at Machinima. Obviously, they'd been cranking for a while.
No. Obviously, you're not like the godfather of Machinima, but like the first of you three to be a member of that sort of company.
I'm sort of the godfather of Respawn, even though they were starting Respawn and they were trying to figure out what to do with it. So I was the first hire as far as
did they poach you?
Putting it together.
They poached him and a lot of other people.
They did. Yeah. Well, they poached. Well, you know, legally, this became a thing shortly after my hiring.
Oh,
is this NDA area?
So no. I mean, it might be if Machinima wasn't 6 feet under. But I guess they're not technically. But G4 didn't want to let me go. So they were grumpy to Machinima about this and did a little saber rattling. And Machinima was like, "Yeah, we're the fucking Machinima was like the punk rock kid. Like, we don't give a shit. They're like, we're like a scrappy bunch of rejects making good or whatever." And so they hired me on to help sort of steer and craft Respawn, because they needed a place, because these guys and wherever you're going to end up sitting, these guys and a bunch and some others who actually slightly predated both Hutch and Nanners, like Blame Truth, XCal, even some gameplay people like Super Great Friend. They'd been doing commentaries, but that shit was blowing up, and it was basically filling and overshadowing the main channel on Machinima's content. And so they wanted a place to dump all that.
And then Nanners and I at the same time were like,
I bounced so fast because when I got the job, I didn't actually made money off of posting on Machinima. So when I got there, they actually cut me a check when I got the job, and I was like, so it was kind of a weird timing thing where I didn't know the potential it had until I had already joined the company. And then I was like, and then down the line when that actually was the case, I was like, why am I working here if I can just be my own boss? And so I bounced so fast, and Sark and Hutch were like, all right, let's just feel this out. I was like, nope, I'm gone. I was like, I'm so gone.
Was one of the
You
stipulations
bounced
of
first.
being there.
You bounced first, but it was not a fast exit. Getting you guys
It was
out of there
messy,
was
yeah.
like, it was
Yeah.
like Jim Carrey climbing out of that rhino's ass. That's
Yeah, I remember
that was a
that.
nightmare.
Yeah,
Was
it's
it
weird.
written into your guys' contracts that you couldn't run your own channels while being there?
There
You
was
could post
ownership.
on
I
your
don't
channel?
I don't know what it was, but like I remember I got the job and they're like, here's a contract. I was like, I just want a job. So getting out and making sure everything was clean and like I was my own, I had ownership over everything was a little bit messy, but that was definitely necessary.
We signed
They
over our
owned
channels to Machinima.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So any like Nanner's like entire like Minecraft series, he didn't see like that. All that ad revenue went to Papa Machinima.
Yeah. They could not make any money off their channels.
Conflict.
Keep in mind, also
30
keep in
million
mind, we
conflict of interest,
gotta
yeah.
paint because a lot of people watching this are not gonna know like the landscape was totally different. So
I barely
there was-
even know. That's what I was saying is like, this was like, some of this stuff was happening before
Yeah.
I even had internet. I lived out in the middle of nowhere in Indiana. I had dial up until like 2011, 2010. So even all this stuff is like, I didn't even know about all this stuff.
There
Yeah.
was not live streaming. Just
No.
that just was not a thing. So
There was also a Mexican standoff between YouTube and creators and the game studios at the time because technically you're supposed to be like if the video game companies wanted to enforce it, they could say that if you want to post videos of their video game, you have to get a license to do it.
yeah.
But I think they figured out really early on that it was advantageous for them to allow creators to post games and monetize it because surely it was driving up game sales. But in the beginning, there was just like any day now they could kind of start cracking
Do you remember
the whip
Hutch
a little bit.
when you would upload stuff, it would explicitly say like, I own this and you have to click it and you'd be like,
Totally.
in order to play. Yeah. It's just like, you have to play ball, but at the same time, it's like a weird shaky, but now it's like people are offering like exclusive opportunities to play things early or they'll sponsor a video or what have you. So yeah, definitely way different.
Yeah, and YouTube knew what was going on too. It's not like they weren't aware.
Yeah.
When we would click those boxes or whatever.
Yeah, so it was a whole different universe.
Yeah. I still remember
back in the
my
day.
first contract. I was with Yaush. You guys remember Yaush?
Oh yeah.
I was with Yaush, dude, who at the time was like, it was like,
heard that name in a
Yaush
while.
is who you went with if you couldn't get with Machinima. I'm not ashamed to admit it because, it worked out all right for me. They weren't predatory in any way. They were pretty chill, but my first contract sucked ass. So with Yaush, the way it was Yaush was technically a subsidiary of Full Screen, who I've been with for a long time. And Full Screen would pay out 75% to the creator and then 25% to themselves, unless you were with Yaush, in which Yaush would take another 10% of that 75%. So I was getting like 67% or something of what I made or something like that.
Still
But
better than my OG Machinima contract.
Yeah.
The old 60-40.
I just remember,
Yeah,
I just
tricked
remember
me.
Yaush. What a
Yaush-
stupid.
Wait,
so
you
dumb.
and
They fucking tricked me into promoting them actually. Like I didn't know what Yaush was, but you remember at COD XP 2011 Sark and Nanners? I don't know if you guys were there, but they just this group of people walked up to me and they say, "Hey, can you look at the camera and just say Yaush, damn it?" I was like, "Sure."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
that
found
was
out-
a thing.
I found out afterwards that I was like,
Did you
promoting
sign
our
anything or
competitor.
no?
Yaush, damn it. Yeah, I remember that.
No,
Did
I
you get
didn't
in
sign
trouble for
anything.
that or?
No, it was just kind of embarrassing.
Oh, okay.
I remember one thing with Yaush early on is they required you to like opt into this like third party program thing where essentially every person that was partnered with Yaush would like every other person who was partnered with Yaush's videos. So every day my account was liking hundreds of videos.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Dude,
crazy.
you Machinima had that too.
Adam's
That's
face.
dirty.
Yeah,
Machinima had that too.
Yeah.
We called it the Death Star. So they could mass like videos with this tool.
Wait, what? Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I don't-
The Death
Yeah.
Star. Jesus.
They wanted to pimp something out. They'd be like, dude, the new Mortal Kombat series is up or whatever. And then
Oh, that's right.
all the
Yeah.
channels that were under Machinima could be like simultaneously liking this thing.
I think it was, I get people that hit me up. They're like, I've been watching your videos since I was 12 years old. I'm like, you should not. Be watching my videos when I was 12 years old.
No.
12 years old, but that was, I think, probably the biggest part of the appeal. Cause like you could just click a button and then you're watching somebody talk about like threesomes or whatever. And there was no barrier.
I mean, you were also one button
a
to click away from watching a threesome, but I mean, sure, whatever your choice was.
Yes.
But you might get trouble if someone got eyes on your browser history doing that. But now it's like, dude. Now you can go on Twitch and watch like chicks paint their titties, and it's like, Mom, I was just watching. It's Twitch, I love Minecraft. Yeah,
but Adam, you were kind of the good boy of.
Yeah, I was about to say that
gamer. Yeah, you early on, I was really mindful of not wanting to be like to curse, and because I knew that I'm like I have no idea who's watching me. Over time, it just degraded, and it doesn't really matter anymore. But like early on, I was very mindful of like, okay, like kids play video games and I'm playing video games. I'm making video game videos. So it made a lot of sense. But when I go back and watch stuff, you can kind of see it slowly. Cause I remember we had recorded a commentary and you were trying to get me to curse, which I did curse in real life. I just was trying not to be problematic. But yeah, I mean, now it's just kind of like, whatever.
We got you.
That was half the shit back then. Was just trying to make it as uncomfortable. As
it was a lot. I was on the side back then. Yeah, pretty much. That was the MO. Is that you guys would just do some fucked up stuff, and then I just be like, "Did they just say that? Did they just do that? Why are we?"
Yeah, the elevator pitch that I gave people for all of Respawn was it's two gaming like online celebrities trapped in a room with me. That was like the. So, because nobody knew who I was. They knew who you were. And the whole show was just pretty much me making both of you uncomfortable.
It worked out. I mean, Respawn was an internet phenomenon.
Full Metal Jousting on...
Full Metal Jousting, yeah.
What was Alan Wake? Remember Alan Wake? You were like going to the middle... I think Sark was going to the middle of nowhere doing God knows what.
Yeah. What the fuck was that? Dude, I'm up in the mountains.
And there was another
with Ron. I was with Ron, waiting around road tripping with our boss.
It was like The Hangover.
So this is how it went. So like nowadays, like you get, like we were saying earlier, you get, like people reach out to you, want you to pimp out a game. Dude, with Machinima, they would hit up Machinima and Machinima would try to sign these like multi-million-dollar engagements that would like be worked into every video. So it was like every video we did had to start off with like a horror skit that had like a through line. So it was like, dude, the office is haunted or whatever. And it wasn't
supposed to be funny. It was like they wanted it to be like, no, we want them to actually be scared. And it just felt so out of place.
They thought it was super scary to have annotations popping up in the middle of your screen that would say like, eat me or whatever for a second. And you'd be like, oh, what was that?
There was a zombie shot there.
I forgot about annotations on YouTube. Holy.
Oh, man.
If you watch the videos.
They called it alternate reality, something? ARG. What did they call it?
ARG, alternate reality games.
Yeah.
Augmented reality.
Yeah.
They're always trying to do. Yeah, they would work in. They've tried to work in a bunch of ARGs. But they're super weak.
Didn't you say?
But it was just always
still wanted to sponsor Respawn. Didn't they literally want to sponsor Respawn?
Yeah. Anything that like there was there's supposed to be a buffer. So I was working. If you want to see the interior of Machinima, there's a production team and a programming team. And then there was a ads and sales department. So the programming team is deciding what shows they need and when shit goes live. And then technically like the production team, were like their client, or we had a client relationship. So they would come to us and say, this is what we need. We need something on Friday. And we have Vagisil on the line, and we'd be like, and then it's on us to be like, okay, Fridays, like sour vaginas. What do we got, people? And it's like the whiteboard, and you're like, and then the ad and sales team is supposed to be the team that would say, no, I don't think Vagisil is a good match for our all male Call of Duty gaming team. But it didn't. That shit just would like fly straight through all like barriers and just land right on us. And so that's part of where a lot of the exhaustion came from, is the asks that would come down to us were just like, I mean, it ranged from, we just need you to do another show, Hutch. And he'd be like, I don't want to do another show. I just want to play Call of Duty. Or it could range to, we need a 6-part Alan Wake horror anthology shot that's going to bookend your videos for a month. And you'd just be like, dude, this sucks.
But some of them were,
which
really
is
cool.
why I ended up in the lake in the mountains while these guys were back at the office, because I didn't want them to have to deal
You're
with
a
it.
giant meat shield. Everyone's like, will they do this? And you're just like, I can talk to them.
I'll do it. I'll be your whore daddy.
But
You say Vagisil, I say how deep. Even like shit like Full Metal Jousting. I don't want to cover jousting, but it was a trip to New York.
What is Full Metal Jousting?
Dude.
We're gonna need the story.
He just shakes his head.
We're gonna need the story.
It's exactly how it sounds.
Because you're
It's just
saying
this-
it like we all should know, but I have no idea what the hell Full Metal Jousting
No, there's a whole bunch of this
is.
shit. X-Arm, you guys remember X-Arm?
Vaguely,
The extreme arm where you arm wrestle while chained to a post, but you can also kick and punch the other guy. And they were trying to make that into a fucking real thing. It still is. If you just Google X-Arm, they're still doing it. But anyway.
They were convinced on some level that might take off or something.
They wanted us to do all this shit. Full Metal Jousting was a real jousting,
That doesn't sound
like
real.
Knights in Armor show, and they wanted us to promote it and be like, "Hi, Mr. Sark here, live from the Middle Ages." Or whatever. Like,
We were in Madison Square Garden. They were doing
Yeah.
like some kind of
Oh,
a
yeah?
rodeo event in Madison Square
Were
Garden.
there horses? Just
Yeah,
like
it's
full
real.
on horse
it was the
jousting.
It's like the whole
the whole
ass
thing.
jousting thing. Yeah.
Sounds like
so they were the
half.
halftime. So yeah, it was like a history show or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget what network it was going on, but they were doing the halftime show within a PBR like big rodeo event at Madison Square Garden. So we got to fly to New York. That's cool. We got to hang out, but we didn't get to do anything we wanted to do. We just went to Madison Square Garden and watched a rodeo, which was cool. And then we had to do like all these interviews with jousters and shit. And it's just, it sucked. It fucking sucked.
They'd film our reactions. So like there was this expectation that, and I'm not very good at faking emotion. I'm
Yeah.
really not good at that. And so like they would like put the camera in my face and they would expect me to be like, when some like major joust happened or something, and my face was just sort of mildly.
So you get a lot of reactions like this, us watching and going like this, and then seeing the camera and being like, or they would only send one camera to do an interview. And everyone's still working their shit out. Like our cameramen and sound guys eventually really had their shit down. But sometimes on the road, you'd hire somebody there. Not everyone's firing on all pistons. So then you get interviews where it's like, it's me with a mic and I'm saying like, so tell me about your armor. And then the camera would pan over to the guy and he'd be like, it's so heavy. and then he'd keep talking. I polish it every day, la, la, la. But the camera would drift back to me, and I'm like this.
Riveting.
And I'm like, yeah, he's talking. Why are you pointing the camera at me? Anyway, it's just sloppy fucking horse shit.
I'm so sad
There's
that like
tons of
all
that.
those videos are gone. I mean, obviously some have been like re-uploaded and stuff, but
Didn't somebody archive Respawn?
There was a guy named Kaminaji that archived, I think, like a lot of it, but not all of it. But the IG guys somehow managed to escape with like a hard drive copy of all their videos. And I wonder if there's a hard drive out there in some
Floating
warehouse
around.
or something that
It's worth
has
millions.
all of the Respawn videos. Gamescom day one was brutal. But that was actually, you know what? That'll be my memory. It was, and we've talked about this a bunch before, but they flew us to Cologne. They flew us to Dallas, and then we came back for a day, and then they flew us to Cologne, Germany, and it was I think like a 12-hour flight or something like that. I don't know. It was a pretty long flight, like 9 to 12 hours. And I didn't get any sleep the night before because my logic was that I'm just going to sleep on the plane. And then that way, when we get there, I won't be jet lagged. And I couldn't sleep on the plane. So by the time we landed, I had been up for like 36 hours or something like that. And they scheduled us to go to a Sony party and cover it that night. And so we took like a 2-hour nap, Sark. And then I don't know how you did it. You were the champion of that day. Cause if you look at the footage, and which you can't find anymore. You're doing this interview and I'm just in the back, just like barely hanging on to life.
Yeah, it was nasty.
That was
brutal.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember a time when Nanners was real uncomfortable.
What about
I'm sure you were responsible for a few.
I think I was always the straight man. Like, I remember one time we got cupcakes and you guys wanted to like eat cupcakes together. I was like, oh, dudes, I don't want to eat your cupcakes. And you guys were like sharing them. I'm like, because you guys were pretty on board to do just about anything. I'm like, I don't know where you've been, Lou. So I'm just not touching that cupcake. But I don't know. That was the only thing I can think of. And anything gross, probably. But in terms of like awkward situations with people that either don't want to be there and then we don't know what we're doing. I mean, that happened like a lot, especially when you have, because Machinima was big in a certain bubble, but not universally so. So I'm sure that probably there may have been situations, but again, probably I forgot about them
especially
all by now.
Especially for you and me, because Sark, you had a experience with being in front of camera, maybe interviewing people too. I'm not sure how much experience you had, but Nanners and I
was always behind the camera. Yeah,
rose from absolute obscurity. Like
totally
was like a film school student, and I was a waiter, and then we got thrust into this situation, which it was totally scary and uncomfortable, like 50% of the time in the beginning, I would say. And then we probably got a little used to it after that. But yeah, it's scary as hell when you have no experience and you don't know how good you're going to be at interviewing people. And
yeah, it's real stressful. So like I had a little leading into it from G4, but it wasn't a ton. And I never wanted to be on camera. I still don't, but they had at G4, I had pitched a thing where I would play with viewers and they could turn it into a segment, and it would sort of address the criticism that like Morgan and Adam are not gamers or whatever, which wasn't true, but they definitely they liked playing different games than they weren't MLG competitive gamers. So they like playing platformers and RPGs or whatever. So I was like, how about I play these things and then you can turn it into a segment of playing with viewer segment. And they were like, good, do it. And you're hosting. And I was like, okay. So that was basically where me being on camera started. But with you guys, yeah, people don't, it's hard to understand until you've been in the position where, say, for example, like you're going to E3. I remember E3 was always really stressful for us because an E3 for us was we're showing up. We've got a camera and sound guy assigned to us, and we have a schedule of like 15 devs that we need to interview about their game. And it's not about like what's in our wheelhouse or what we're interested in. It's just we're part of the larger schedule. And so it's like you've got Hutch has got to interview
Logging Simulator 2013.
Yeah. And then Nanners is talking to the lead dev at Squaresoft via a Japanese English translator about the latest Final Fantasy.
Remember that, but that sounds wonderful.
and you're not looking forward to any of it. And you're like, oh God, I'm going to look like such a fool because I know nothing about this guy's game. I mean, hopefully you did homework the night before, but even then you're kind of faking it.
Yeah. I did do homework and I was still scared shitless.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just stressful. Yeah. It's just stressful because it's almost like the stress of doing, and again, this is not something a lot of people can like hone in on, but it's like doing improv because you're just winging it for hours. You're just like hoping that you don't make too big a fool of yourself. Yeah. That's probably my most stressful moment was, I would say, when they had me hosting the Inside Gaming Awards. So I was like the pre-show, like the Ryan Seacrest.
Oh, I think he's told me about this one before.
I love this story. Yeah. And so I'm doing the pre-show, and it's fun, and it's like, everybody's there, and all the pals. I don't have time to do much because for an hour and a half, 2 hours, I'm basically on my own, but they're trying to bring people up for me to talk to. So it's literally like you would see a New Year's Eve show counting down to the ball dropping or whatever, where it's like different guests coming up. And there was a point where, they have a schedule for me, but there was a point where they just told me, like, you got it. They do this, like, behind the camera, the producer's like stretch, you got to stretch. And usually that's like, okay, so they're trying to get me a new guest. And I'm like, so I'm just riffing. I'm live the whole time. You can't stop and take a break. So I'm like, what do you talk about for like 5-10 minutes? And then the guy goes like this. He's like, we need 45 minutes. And I'm like, what? Like, give me somebody to talk to. And so I had to just bullshit for 45 minutes. And by the end of that, I felt like I'd run a marathon. It's mentally exhausting.
Just sweating profusely.
Manners and I sort of revolted towards the end of 2011, where it was just like, we just sort of decided that we were just going to, instead of...
Oh, yeah, we were hanging out in my apartment. I remember that.
They would just have these rules, like you had to record everything in studio, but they didn't give you like a decent space to do it. So like you'd be recording these gameplays, but there'd be like 6 people in your area, and you're only divided by like this like thin divider.
I hate
stopped
doing sponsor videos in that same environment. I've done that before. Like years ago, you would go to like, you would go to like the dev studio or whatever, and they would be like, all right, you're going to record the game. But by the way, there's just 6 people walking around listening to you act like a maniac.
Yeah.
Do you remember the audio booth was a cardboard box with foam taped on the inside and a Yeti microphone in it? And you just had to it was like this big, and you just put your head in it and record it.
This was at the office?
Yeah. And you're sweating profusely because it was so hot in there too. But Nanners and I would just be like, we're just not going to do that. And so we would go over to his apartment, and I would smoke some weed. And
they told me that I couldn't bring my computer in. They're like, I guess it was a liability, or they were just trying to be controlling of the environment, figuring, I don't know exactly what they thought I was going to do on my computer that was going to be an issue. But I remember they told me, because I'd had to edit videos, like, because I was making videos to post on Respawn. But they were just very restrictive about it. A lot of weird things. It's almost like they were figuring it out as they went, but no one really quite knew, it seemed, what they were doing. And it became very apparent over time. It was just like, so are there rules, or should we even be here, or what's happening? I just don't understand.
Yeah.
Dude, can we talk about your exit interview, Hutch, where I told you we're going in, I've got you out, you're free. Oh yeah, you're gonna get your channel. All you have to do is shut the fuck up and don't say anything. Just don't say anything. Do you remember this?
You recount this story. We talked about it at the throwback inbox episode that we did like a year ago. I have no memory of this. I totally believe you. I'm not saying it's not true, but I have no memory.
I was so pissed. So first off, negotiating or assisting in the negotiations, spearheading, we'll say that. The effort to get them out with their channels was a Herculean, like 18-month just battle. Because Machinima was saying, Nanners, you remember, Machinima was saying, yeah, you're free to go, but your channel's ours. And you're like, I want all the stuff that I've worked for.
Yeah. Who's going to post videos if it doesn't belong to me?
And it was such a monumental, like, bi-weekly battle to get them to finally, and remember, they only let you go they were like, okay, but you got to come back in and do shows every now and then. And I'm like, just go, and I will never call you again. Just go, fly.
It was like we broke up, and there was like this weird, like we didn't fight our way out of it. It was just like, okay, so you're going to come back, right? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah. And then you looked at me like, I was like, just agree to that. And then I'll never activate that clause of our little like agreement here.
Yeah, but I thought back, it wasn't leverage, because what are they going to do? I mean, like, it's worse for the company.
Yes.
cause that sort of issue than it is for one channel to just go. Like it's not that big. They're just looking. They're worried about it.
Hutch is he's a pleaser. He's a people pleaser.
What? No. Wait, hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Let me interject real quick. I didn't want to go. I wanted them to give me a fat paycheck. I didn't want to go because part of it was like I didn't have the kind of faith that Adam had in him. Like Adam knew, like I'm going to go off on my own. It's going to be great. I didn't have that same. Like I didn't know what was going to happen. So like,
this is past that though. This is past that. When the check was no longer on the table, and it was now I can get you out with your channel. This is the end, and we're in the
take you at your word.
Okay,
for this.
take my word for it. I remember it as if it happened 5 minutes ago, and we're in the meeting, and they're like, and bosses that will remain nameless are like, they're guilt tripping you. They're saying like, well, I feel like there's just so much stuff that we could have done. They really hate to see you go. And you're sitting there and I'm sitting like both legs, like nervous knee, nervous leg bouncing. And I'm just like, don't say anything. Anything you say now counts as an agreement. Just don't say anything. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, this has been great. And I'm honestly looking forward to, seeing what you do over there. And you open in slow motion, like your mouth is like, and I'm like, and then you pitched something where you're like, well, what if we, I forget what the details were. You're like, what if, like I go out, I got my channel, it's fine, but I come in and I'm doing this thing and maybe, can we have like a little stipend or some fucking something? And I'm like, no, I had you were free. And the boss's eyes are like we've got him. We've got him. He ain't going nowhere.
They knew how.
Yeah, we'll circle back to this, and
they knew how to work us, man. That me and Adam, like when they first started monetizing people's channels, me and Adam walked in. And we're like, okay, here's the game plan. We're gonna try to get so and so to give us our channels, and then like we were like, okay, well, we just think that it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to be paying us this salary when we could be making this much more with our channels. And the big boss man was like, no, not gonna happen. Absolutely. And if you don't like it, you can go. And me and Adam were like, okay, well, I guess we'll go back upstairs.
For a bit.
Do they have legal weed in Tennessee?
No, not yet. But as soon as they do, my girlfriend is going to grow the finest that Tennessee has ever seen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's big into like gardening and shit. And she's like, as soon as it's legal, she's like, I'm going to grow some weed. All right.
I'm just saying, let Portland host the Olympics. Watch
the Olympic torch is just a massive fucking
testing. You'd have like
the Olympic torch is the biggest blunt you've ever seen.
No, there'd be like I'm talking. You think bigger. Think like PCP yoked bodybuilding, like lifting buses and shit.
While on
a
ton of mushrooms.
Swimmers, just swimmers pitter pattering across the surface. They're just
running across the water like Jesus.
Yeah. People are hurling javelins into the audience.
Dude, make a Portland Olympics happen and let's smash some goddamn records.
Do you remember when I gave you that brownie for the first time?
So for my first
both of you.
Yeah, my first experience was a brownie, and Hutch didn't really give me the best heads up because you shouldn't have an edible your first experience.
You should never have an edible your first time.
I told you. I said, do not eat more than a quarter of this brownie. Don't do it. I told you.
Even a quarter, dude. Even a quarter.
And then
the thing was like this big. It was like
you did eat the whole thing.
I didn't eat the whole thing.
Oh,
I didn't eat the whole thing. This is your first experience.
You ate a lot, though, because I remember as your boss,
I called you had to call in sick to me. Fall asleep because that's what's happening.
You called me and you said, so my throat is closing.
Closing. Is this okay?
Yeah. I think I'm dying.
Yeah. I'm like, thanks for the heads up. Yeah,
it was 2 calls because you called me at work and you're like, I'm not feeling well. I can't come in. Then you called Hutch at his desk and you're like, I think I'm dying. I'm suffocating.
I can't feel
my feet the next day. Yeah, because I was messed up the next day. Because I don't remember much, but I was just I woke up on I guess I laid down, which I guess makes sense because you're sleepy. But yeah, that was traumatizing. I stayed away from it for a long time because of that situation. Yeah, it was pretty awful. It wasn't like years later. I was like, oh, is actually very
But
therapeutic.
you were
By the way,
one
I
that
only
said-
know this because Hutch ratted you out instantly. He hung up the phone and then came to me laughing
That's
and
awesome.
crying.
You're remembering this wrong. He called me at like midnight the night
Yeah.
before. And then
Oh,
when I
you
came
told
in-
me when you came in and told me
I was
that.
like, bro, Adam thought he was gonna die.
Yeah, I was
Shit was
playing
so
Borderlands and I was playing with the group and I was like, because I had made dinner and then I'd had a dessert because it's a brownie. I figured that made sense, but I didn't know because like the way you digest. And so I just played for a bit. I got off. I was like, yeah, that was a good.
And Sark, you said you were playing Battlefield, and then you just completely stopped functioning after.
Yeah, I felt like everything was. I was trying to play Battlefield, and my girlfriend, my to-be wife, she's sitting on the couch just dying laughing, and I'm like, this fucking sucks. and then the remote slipped out of my hand. Like I couldn't even hold on to the controller. It like slips out of my hands, and I go like this in my chair. I go, oh, I'm fucking useless. And then just stay there. And she's like, dude, it killed you. That thing. Just like someone shot you with a trank dart.
I couldn't have thought of a worse scenario that you put me in. It's all your fault, Hutch, not my problem at all. Yeah,
I did feel guilty about that.
No, it's all good because years later I was like, oh, that was the wrong way to do that. That was just a newspaper situation.
Well,
Absolutely.
Machinima one time invited us. They were doing like, yeah, we're going to be doing a showing of Tucker and Dale versus Evil. Have
Oh,
you
I
guys
remember
seen
seeing
that?
that. It was
It
funny.
was a great movie, but
Yeah.
it's like a small independent kind of comedy horror film.
Yeah.
And they explained it like it was just going to be some showing. So I thought it was just going to be like us, like 10 of us in the theater or whatever watching this. And so I fucking, of course, ate like half a brownie before showing up. And then it turns out it's the fucking premiere. And so I go up to these escalators. And when I get up there, there's like fucking literally people like fucking pulling cameras out. There's like the stars of the movie there. And I just remember freaking I grabbed Kale and I was like, you got to save me from this, man. I don't know anybody. I'm freaking
Dude, I remember walking outside to shoot an episode. Nanners was not there, but it was with you. And I forget what the circumstances were, but we needed to shoot a thing and you were fucking blazed. And it had just come up. And so Hutch is like this. He's like, do I look high?
You're like,
And I was
yes.
like, no, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah,
You're
you're
good. Just let me do this. So we do a whole thing. And you didn't say anything other than or whatever. Yeah.
So, thank you guys for inviting us on. This was a ton of fun.
This has been super fun. I feel like there's still infinitely more to talk about, and maybe we can do it again sometime. Super fun chat with you guys.
Yep.
Some of
Down.
the OGest of OGs in the YouTube gaming scene. So it was really cool to come and talk
Good
about
catching
stuff.
up.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff was stuff that happened before I even, like I said, was even on the platform, which was crazy. So yeah, it was
sorry
really cool.
for City, like repeat things you guys have probably heard over the years.
Yeah, we
but
try to avoid that, but
fair
like
amount of people watching
I'm
may not know
completely
this
in the
story.
dark. I was like,
Yeah,
No.
trying to
Yeah,
condense
it's
like
all
a
good.
decade. So it's a lot. There's a lot of different pieces of that timeline.
Oh yeah.
No,
So
no, that was a ton of fun.
all right, well,
Yeah,
thanks for
Also,
coming on, guys.
Panda, you're not the fat guy. You're looking good, buddy. Forget that shit.
not
You're
below the
looking fine.
microphone.
Well, don't stand up.
It's all
then. Let
lighting
me
and
live my
angles.
life.
There's a reason why it crops here. It hides the C cup breasts.
All right.
I guess we have to end on that note, don't we? How unfortunate.
On the C cup breast.
All right. See you later.
All right, bye guys.
See ya.